Brian Russ was back out there. Is there any kind of update on his status or timeline for him?
His status hasn't changed. His timeline remains the same from our standpoint. He's making progress. The fact that he's participating with the team, I think, is just the next step in the rehab process. So, but his timeline remains the same. His status remains the same.
Mike, any change in status for Sid or Jeff, and at the expense of asking an obvious question, what can the two players like that potentially do to your offense after the last two games?
So Sid and Karts are both going to play tonight, and I think it goes without saying they offer us so much on both sides of the puck. You know, we're just a much better hockey team when they're in our lineup. You know, so we're excited to have them back in the lineup. I think it gives us more depth. It makes our power play more dangerous. It makes matchups more difficult for our opponents. It has a ripple effect on our whole team. But these guys are real good players. It's nice to get some of these guys starting to come back into our lineup.
Mike, you mentioned the preseason that you saw Rico as a guy who could possibly play his offside. Just what about his particular skill set gives him that capacity, that ability?
Yuso's a real good skater. He has good puck skills. I think that gives him the ability to play both sides. He sees the ice really well. He can make outlet passes. In particular, one of his strengths is on the offensive blue line. He's got a real good shot. He gets pucks through. We can utilize him on a power play. He brings all of those things to our group.
Mike, you've mentioned this before with Yuso and how he's handled the last 7-8 months with his status on the roster, maybe not being ideal. How difficult is that for a player to try to keep an upbeat attitude through less than ideal circumstances? How has Yuso specifically maybe done that?
Well, it's a tough challenge. This is a hard league, and it's very competitive. There's a lot of good players, and it's not easy to solidify a roster spot on any given team. And so, Yuso is a real good teammate. He's a good person. He obviously wants to be in our lineup. Last year was a tough experience for him, and I thought he handled it very professionally. He never influenced the team in a negative way at all. He worked extremely hard. He just had a professional approach, and our coaching staff certainly was appreciative of that. But we also know he's a player that wants to play, like most players. They're competitive guys. They want to be in the lineup. They're doing everything within their power. But this is a competitive league, and it's not easy to make this league and solidify a consistent roster spot. So Yuso's a good player. He brings certain aspects that we think can help our team, and depending on performance and how guys play or what we think the needs of the team are at the time, he's a guy that's always in the conversation for us.
Mike, after the last game, Jake Gensel was somewhat critical of himself, saying he feels like he needs to produce a little bit more. I'm curious just your observations of how he's played early this season, and what kind of impact do you think it'll have to have his regular center Sidney Crosby skating with him?
Well, Jake expects a lot of himself, and he takes responsibility. I think for his contribution to our team, and so that's part of the quality person that he is. We certainly admire that about Jake, and our assessment isn't far off of his own assessment. We have high expectations of him too, and this team relies on Jake to help us offensively, to be a good two-way player. He has the ability to be a real impact player for our team, and so I just think it goes without saying when you add Sid into the lineup, it's a game changer. So he's those two have had a certain chemistry for a long time that's evident, I think, to all of us. So I'm sure Sid's presence in the lineup will certainly help Jake in that regard. But he's a guy that we rely on to make a positive impact on helping our team win games.
Last question in the middle.
Mike, I'm not sure if with your team getting healthier, if two players with Jersey connections will play tonight. Can you tell me about the impact of Drew O'Connor and, of course, Brian Boyle at the time that you had with your
Well, both of